Hey, leaders, we know the importance of establishing systems within our organizations to be able to ensure that we have consistent flow, that we are feeling proactive rather than reactive, that we're not feeling like we are constantly planning on the fly. This also comes to apply when it comes to looking at planning out our annual calendar for our school year. So let's dig into why that is critically important and some thoughts and ideas to be able to put forth.
So the first thing that comes to my mind is really planning a family holiday.
Okay, you're going to have to make that connection for us.
So if you think about all of us have had that opportunity to be able to plan an adventure for our family. And as you begin to plan, you think about, what are the dates span that we need to be able to
Right.
schedule? And where are we going to stay? Are we traveling with an RV or are we traveling and staying in hotels? And what are some of the events that we're going to attend? Or what are some of the special locations that we want to spend some time at? And
Mhm.
when we think overall, we begin to plan, the all of those aspects that need to be figured out ahead of
Yeah.
time and to be sure that your holiday is going to be successful. But then once you're on your holiday, there's all kinds of things that occur in the in between during your travel and during your days that aren't necessarily part of that beginning schedule
So
or beginning plan.
essentially with that, you're saying we create the overall skeleton, the
Yeah,
overall structure, and then we still allows us flexibility
for
within it.
sure.
Have I got it?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So then, if I come and bring that back to the school, the same thing applies when we're
Yeah.
thinking about laying out that annual calendar. And I have to give an admission that when I was in my first couple years as an administrator, I did not understand the importance of that. And what would happen is at different points in the year, people would come in and say, "Hey, when are we doing X?" And you'd look at the calendar and go, "Oh my goodness, that's
We
probably
have to
something
fit
that's
that
coming
in.
in, or we have to fit that in." It didn't take long to realize that if we had that basic skeleton of the year mapped out, it still allowed us to flex and move. And there might be things that change
Yeah.
within that, but the overall structure was there. So I think this, I always reached the point of this was starting to get sketched out the prior year before
Yeah,
we even came
absolutely.
in. But then in the fall, absolutely needed to make sure that it was lined up with some intentionality. So I always started with what are the big rocks that I have no
hmm
control of? I mean, there's obviously the things like stat holidays, but divisional professional
Yeah.
learning days. Maybe we have certain expectations from our division of when things would happen. If we had regular admin meetings, I'd sketch those in so that we could plan around that. Those would kind of be the big rocks and would take that overall calendar
hmm
and just start sketching it out from start of the year to the end of the year, starting with the big ones, which is usually the stats, the PD days, things that were set outside of the school.
Well, and then the next component to consider is we talk all the time about our layers of teams, and to ensure that every layer of team has a place and space in our annual calendar.
Mhm.
So for you to make sure that you're including when do the grade 6 team get together to do their collaborative planning?
Yeah, so however we've set up that collaborative planning, where would that exist?
Yeah, and just being clear about how that's posted in the calendar.
Mhm.
Then, of course, comes our collaborative team meetings, making sure that you've mapped in your every 3 to 4 weeks when you're going to get together in that structure.
Mhm. I I actually would argue with you a little bit. I found out that it was more advantageous to go and map out the screening, the assessments, universal screens that we would do, and
hmm
then go and do absolutely what you said of map in those CTMs. But it became valuable to say, we know that our screening timeline, we're doing our literacy screens during this timeline, or maybe it's this week,
Yeah,
then it would be really strategic to say, is there some collaborative planning time afterwards to be able to
yeah.
analyze those results? And then do we have a collaborative team meeting to be able to say, from the results, it surfaced these students that we'd want to be
I
able
just
to
got
bring in?
ahead of you.
Yeah.
But
I-
yeah, absolutely. I would agree that the being able to have the data available,
yeah,
we need to consider when do we gather the data and when do we analyze it so that it's ready for our teams. And
absolutely.
then, of course, the team time is going to matter in how they can use
And
that.
of course, when we're
Yeah.
putting all of that in, things will flex, change. We may have said we were intending to gather data during this time, but it looks like there's this activity that is going on. Maybe we need to make a shift. It was through that planning that we could be really, really intentional and focused on when do all of our different teams align, including when we have our school support team,
Yeah, absolutely.
when does that team, or in some situation teams, when do they meet as well? And again, being able to really effectively map out, it's, if we weren't doing that, it's highly possible that we could say we're meeting on a team on Monday, and then the next week we're starting to gather some assessment data. Well, that might not be the right sequence
Mhm.
to be able to maximize time to then be able to analyze that data. Maybe we don't meet for another month and we go, oh my goodness, we have this data and we're not even responding to it.
Yeah, for sure. And so we think about what are the benefits of doing this? Like it sounds like a lot of work. And we need to make sure that we're considering our assessments and our teams and our timetable plays into that
Yeah.
as well.
Well,
So
and then you're also going to be putting in things such as special events in the
yeah.
school, in the community. When does our uh, winter solstice celebration happen? All of those little things can get, and sorry, not little, in some cases big. How do they get mapped in as well for us?
Yeah. So I think there's a number of things that we really need to depend on having that schedule.
Mhm.
And one is awareness so that everyone understands what we're doing, when, and what teams are meeting, and what's the purpose. I mean, if it's valuable, it's
Mhm.
going to be in that
Well, and
calendar.
we've seen teams through what we're describing here, then able to scope in and say, we have these three key priority areas in our school development plan. We're going to start layering those in so that when the team meets, their focus will be connected to one of our priority areas, which is literacy achievement. And so that's going to be the focus when they meet this time, and start to make that crystal clear. Again, knowing that things may shift during the year and
Yeah.
they may have to adjust. The other thing that I found was really helpful was, we'll be right back to continue this episode.
In the spring, we often find ourselves stretched between two worlds, with one foot in the year wrapping up and the other foot in the year to come. This messy middle presents many challenges, but also provides opportunities to learn from the past and plan for the future. Join us for the online workshop, Planning for Fall Startup, Re-engaging Collaborative Response, part of our Supporting Collaborative Response series. In this on-demand workshop, I will share 5 ways to reflect on learnings from the current school year and 5 considerations for planning for the new year. I'll also be sharing numerous resources, templates, and samples that will support you in your learning. Access this on-demand workshop and you'll have the ability to view, replay any or all of the workshop when it best fits your time. Register today to learn more about how the Fall Startup can be an excellent opportunity to re-energize your school's collaborative response efforts.
And now back to our conversation. You speak of the awareness, but also then the predictability
Yeah,
of
yeah.
knowing that we've planned that this team is going to meet X number of times during the year. We have it sketched in, and then it helped immensely when people were planning other things that were happening in their life. For instance, I'm looking at a doctor's appointment I'm going to try and stay off this Tuesday if possible because I recognize that's when the team is meeting. And actually, we became quite deliberate and intentional in our messaging as leaders to say, please hold some of these as sacred as possible, as best as we can, because it's going to be more effective if everyone's at the table in connection to that.
Definitely enhances communication across the school, but there's also a bit of security in knowing what's coming up. I can always go back to that calendar to know what's happening. And like you said, there might be some adjustments
Of course,
every now and
always.
again, but basically I understand what's going on in the school, and I can always go back to my calendar to determine where I can place things that I'm planning in my classroom.
Well, and it also allows us to start thinking with a high degree of logic
Yeah.
in that we know we have this PD day happening. Therefore, it makes sense to structure a staff meeting before because we're going to plan, or after. Like, all of those considerations come into play. And again, the overall driving factor becomes that school development or school improvement plan that then can help formulate how do we ensure we're able to schedule and structure things into that annual calendar.
And when we think about the key issues that are surfacing in our collaborative team meeting, alongside of our areas of focus that are from our school improvement plan, then when we know that there's a PD day coming up at the end of the month, we have a focus that through our work, we've identified the topics that we should actually be digging a little bit deeper in for those PD days. Sometimes we have, oh no, PD is on Friday. What are we going to
What
do?
are we going to do? And then that really detracts from the intentionality, alignment, focus when we're just trying to fill time because it's on a schedule and we haven't given it the forethought.
And so when you have this map that you have laid out ahead of time, then you certainly can use it to its fullest and ensure that we're focusing on the areas that we've identified through our school improvement.
Absolutely. So with this, we do have some further resources that we will include within the show notes as well. That will include some blogs related to this, some templates that could help, some samples that may be valuable to take a look at as well. We'd love, as always, if you have examples, lessons learned, things that you do in regards to setting up your school year for success and mapping that out. We'd love to hear that. Please forward your comments, suggestions, questions, and we will attend to those. So as always, wishing you all the best and take care.
See you soon.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. Explore more podcasts at www.teachbetterpodcastnetwork.com. We'll see you on the next episode.